Hi, all. Good morning. It is day 38 of our 45 Days to Adulting countdown, and today we have a very special guest.
Hi, everyone. My name is Winky, and I'm the co-director of Rise with Julia. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about making a career and a life pivot.
Yes.
Do you want to share
So,
your story?
yes, totally. So, we thought this would be a really good topic
Mhm.
because a lot of times people like get an identity around a certain career or a certain lifestyle, even, and then it feels like you're stuck. And this
Mhm.
might happen at 22, at 25, at 40, but really the reality is you can make a change at any moment. And a lot of times, kind of our perceptions of what it is, who we are, what it is that we do, keep us stuck in something. But really, there is this thing called a pivot. If you haven't heard of it, it's like why a lot of people go to grad school. People want to make a change and they call it a pivot. It's just a fancy word to say you're making a change in your
Change.
life. Yeah. We were joking. We can call this pivot your life. So my personal anecdote about making a pivot. Um, I essentially was in management consulting for several years, and that was something I worked really hard to get into, worked really hard when I was there, like put a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears into it. The kind of thing where you don't want to leave because you've been working your way up, and I had been getting a promotion, and like things were going well. But there was something in me where I kept thinking, this isn't really what I want to be doing, I don't think, just in terms of what I was doing on the day to day. And so I did some research. We're going to talk about our tips. But ultimately, I decided to leave that job and go and work for my grandfather. So I actually went and apprenticed with my grandpa, who is an inventor, engineer, and I started making saws, literal hand saws. So this is maybe a subject for another day, but I decided after we go through these tips that it was best for me to pivot out of this consulting job and move into the field of entrepreneurship. And the first place that I did that was learning from my grandpa, who is a lifelong entrepreneur. Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Making hand saws. I think
Yeah.
that's a skill we all need.
Dusty folding saws. Go check them out. They're yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, my pivot came, I think, when I was 20, which is like pretty early on, actually. But what happened was I was in my undergrad and I was pursuing a career in teaching because I was in a teacher education program. And when I was doing my student teaching in a kindergarten classroom, I think that's when I realized, like, even though I really, really love children and I love being in the school in a classroom, there was something just missing, and I wasn't really, really happy about what I was doing. And I think that's when this kind of existential crisis almost hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wasted like most of my undergrad time pursuing this thing that I'm not super passionate about. Like, what am I going to do? Um, Again, like Julia said, like after a little bit of research, talking to people, then that's when I decided that, you know what, I'm going to drop my teacher licensure track and I'm going to actually pursue something else. So I decided to go on to do some research, and now I'm like in grad school doing still education, but not in teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and like you said, your pivot came early, but pivots are gonna keep happening to us.
Yes.
So I would say even after I like went to work for my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
I've pivoted 2 or 3 times since then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's once you do it once, you
Mm-hmm.
feel a little bit more comfortable with it, and
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of do it more frequently, which I think actually reflects like human development and evolution, where I was changing.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
the more we can
definitely.
pivot, the more like closely aligned we will be with who we are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have 3 tips today for if you're considering a pivot, like how do you even begin if you have kind of that little feeling of like, I kind of want to make a change. So should I do number 1?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
all right. So the first one is finding ways to actually go out and experience the thing that you think you want to be doing. So a lot of times we have this grass is always greener mentality where you think, oh, if I was just doing this other thing, I would be so much happier. We really want to go and test that hypothesis, right? You want to go into the field, you want to go out and find opportunities either to volunteer, to intern, to job shadow, to create a kind of a passion project on the side. But before you really make that choice to like upturn your entire life, because that is a pretty intense thing and make a huge change, you want to go out and have some of those experiences and really validate like, okay, yes, this is the thing that I want to pivot towards. And you're not going to know 100%, but it's going to give you a lot more insight into what it is that you like, and you might actually discover something different that you weren't thinking about pivoting into in that exploration process. So go find ways to actually like do the thing before you make the big pivot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our second tip is Quite similar to the first one. It's really about, talking to people and reaching out to people. So if you do or are trying to look for change in your life or change in career, it's actually very helpful to talk to people who are in that same boat or are in the career that you want to go into, just because they have had that experience of working in there, they have the experience and they know how it's really like being in that field. So reach out to people, keep talking to them, like keep networking. One really helpful thing that you can do is really just kind of go on LinkedIn and see who is in maybe like a dream job that you want to pursue or in the field of career that you want to be in, and just reach out to them. I mean, it can be really, really scary to cold call someone and just be like, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. Would it be okay to talk? But you know what? If you never try, you never know if you're going to like it. So it's best if you just reach out, just take that risk and like go for it.
Mm-hmm. This was not meant to be a plug, but Rise, the membership, is a really good place to meet people who are all literally like dedicated to educating you about who you are and what you want to be doing. So anyways, side note, follow the link. You can learn more. Okay, and then the third tip that comes from my experience, and this makes me feel like my mom or something, which is amazing because my mom's amazing. But okay, if you want to be able to pivot in your life, you need to have resources to do so. You need to have at least some buffer of money, opportunity. Just you need some like slack in your line essentially, so you can actually leave one job, leave one opportunity, and shift into a new one. And maybe there's going to be a few weeks in between where you're going to have to pay your rent without getting a new paycheck, right? So whatever that looks like, whether that means, hey, I want to like start a savings account today, which is literally like a rainy day fund, or you could call it even your pivot fund. But save money all the time just so you have that buffer. This goes back to, we did a personal finance 50 30 20, but go back and watch that budgeting module because we talk about 20% of your money goes to savings. But some of those savings actually become like a tool that you can use to pivot, so you don't feel stressed about money. Because if you leave your job and then you have to pay the bills the next week, you're not really going to feel energized to go and pursue your passion or do some riskier thing.
Yeah. That's actually a very good tip because it's not something that I think about. So I learned something.
Yeah. And I mean, it can also come in the form of family. Like talk to your family, like, hey, mom and dad, or big brother, big sister, little brother, little sister, could I stay with you for a few weeks while I'm doing these job interviews? Whatever it might be, you can find those resources. Yeah. Okay, and then the bonus, we had a bonus. This is kind of tip number 4. We just wanted 3, but now there's a bonus.
Is to take the risk with preparation. So I think like the tips that we've covered really are about being prepared and knowing what you're going into instead of, just making a very impulse jump and being like, oh, I'm going to take the risk and just quit my job. I mean, like that is a great move that you're doing that, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you have backup plans and you're organized and you're well planned about this before you really, really take that jump.
Yeah, and then it will be a risk. Like it's going to feel scary no matter what, but make sure that you've done the research first, and then when it comes time to take the risk, just go for it. It's going to be a little scary because you're going to be changing things up, but ultimately you have to trust your research, trust all the connections you've made, and know that you're moving towards something that is going to serve you better than wherever you are today.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd add?
Not really. That's actually a really good point. Like, be prepared and take that risk.
Be prepared. Join Girl Scouts. Join Rise membership. Cool. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Like, follow, share. If you're on YouTube, follow the channel. Wherever you are, spread the word because we want to do. We're doing 37 more of these. So more free content, more free adulting tips, and we'll have another opportunity hopefully to talk to Winki next week or the week after. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great Friday. Bye.